Our brain doesn't fully separate fact from fiction. The same parts light up whether you're imagining it or living it. So what happens when we spend hours of our time in dark romance, fantasizing about morally grey characters? Let's talk about it. In my late teens, well, my whole teens, and my early 20s, I too would fantasize and love the bad boys and morally grey characters of fiction. And in real life, I entertained toxic relationships, abusive relationships, relationships that made me reactive and a shell of myself. At some point, I hit my breaking point in one of my last relationships, and I decided that I wasn't going to do this anymore. I was going to either be alone or I was going to find the person that I was meant to be with. And with that conviction, months later, I met my fiance, and to a T, he is the man that I've always wanted, the man that I've journaled about. Here's the twist though. Years into this healthy relationship, I discovered I couldn't enjoy the characters I used to love. And it got me curious. Why is it that when my love life changed and my views on love changed, why did my preference in fiction and fictional romance change? And the answer, it lies in psychology. The way our brains don't differentiate completely between imagination and reality. If you're imagining something vivid enough, the line between imagination and reality begins to blur. That's why if you picture someone you love dying, your chest tightens, your eyes water, and your body panics, even though it never happened. Now think about what happens when we binge TV shows or read books. We cry for the characters, we cheer for the characters. Sometimes it does leak into reality. Remember Jack Gleeson from Game of Thrones? People couldn't separate the show from the actor, so much so that they hunted him out of the acting career and put him into a hiatus. It doesn't mean we condone those behaviours in real life, but could it mean that we subconsciously condone the dynamic behind them? Take H.D. Carlton's Haunting Adeline. Now, parts of this book really did pull me in, and I did enjoy the writing. She's a beautiful writer. But when it got to the scene where Zaid shoves a pew-pew in her hoo-hoo, I was out. Some readers would argue that she gave in, she enjoyed it, she didn't really say no. Here's the thing. Did he wait for a yes either? Because from what I was reading, he really didn't, and it was verging on, RAPE. And the problem I had when I was reading it is knowing that victims of assault can still have physical responses that they don't understand. People can bond with their abusers. Stockholm Syndrome is real. But yes, reading that book definitely made me realize that I'm no longer a dark romance fan, and made me curious as to why, and here is why I think it is, and why science think it is. Addiction isn't just about substances, it's about dopamine, the rush you get after a low. People assume addiction means drugs or alcohol, but the addiction gene doesn't discriminate. You see it in gambling, sex, shopping, and anything else that spikes dopamine after a crash. As an avid journaler, I had to face some reality a few years ago. I was entertaining bad relationships because subconsciously I was choosing to. No one was holding me captive. I could have left at any point, but I kept going back. Why? Because part of me was addicted to the cycle. The highs, the lows, and at the exact same time, I was obsessed with 50 Shades of Grey and the Crossfire series. Looking back, I can see the link. I wasn't just reading those stories, I was acting them out. And when we say acting them out, I don't mean like acting out these insane storylines from a TV show. Things have a point. The way someone behaves in a TV show does still translate into a mundane point. Think about Christian Grey. Strip away the looks, money, and what do you have? A stalker, a man who seeks out a woman that resembles his birth mother just to play out his trauma. And yet what did we all focus on? His money, his gestures, his transformation. Even though it wasn't really much of one, he just decided that he wouldn't abuse his girlfriend in the bedroom. The point is that these stories train us, especially young girls, to accept bad behavior and to think that I can fix him, he'll change just for me. And I'm sorry, but this could be a harsh reality, and I know this might tickle some feathers, and I have been umming and ahhing about what kind of direction I want to go with my social presence, and I definitely want to go the controversial route because it does well for me and I'm a passionate person, so I will be able to deliver a lot more passionately on here. But with that comes offense, and I'm willing to accept that now. Back to it. When we're growing up and we don't have a stable view of what love and romance looks like from our parents or the people around us, we can look to fiction to fill in the hole. And now that we know that imagination and reality can blur, especially when we're intensely immersed, what we see on the page or the screen doesn't just entertain us, it shapes us and what we desire. And to add another truth to the fact that you'll repeat patterns that you witnessed or experienced growing up with your parents, the two combined, that's a recipe for heartbreak, chasing chaos, taking it for passion, and missing the quiet safety of real love. And for me, I can see it in my past that fiction and the things that I was idolizing were bleeding into reality. And the thing is that we're not in a fantastical world. So when we accept these behaviors, we're not gonna at the end turn into an immortal vampire with a beautiful man that has gifted us with immortality. It's usually accepting more mundane things. In fiction, we're constantly fed the idea that love can change someone, and that phenomenally attractive men will change just for the right girl. Look at the Vampire Diaries. Damon himself admits Elena is the reason he changes, and the show tells us that that's romance, that the right woman can save the broken man. I'm sorry to tell you this, but most men don't change because you love them. Women don't either. People change because they want to. One thing I really don't like is YA stories centered around a teenage girl that ends up with a grown adult man. Take Ezra Fitz from Pretty Little Liars. From the very beginning, he lies to Arya. He knew who she was. He knew her age. He deliberately took a job as her teacher so he could write a book about her. And then he slept with her, a teenager, his student. And throughout the series, it's revealed he dated more than one underage girl as an adult. And how does it end? They get married and they try for kids. Stories like this reinforce the idea that pain and trauma can eventually be worth it, and eventually you will have a happy ending with this person who's caused you so much pain. And realistically, it's not a love story. It's abuse dressed up as romance. And it's a real danger when young girls have access to these TV shows, books, and movies. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm saying bad characters or morally grey characters are unforgivable. I love them, I write them, and they're some of the most complex and compelling characters you can have in your story. But when it comes to romance, we kind of have to ask what's the difference, especially if we are running most of our time off subconscious thoughts and patterns and not conscious decisions. What's the difference between a bad boy whose entire arc is built on control, disrespect, or obsession, and the man who's flawed, maybe even dark at times, but would never disrespect the woman he loves? Let's take Jamie Fraser from Outlander. He's not perfect. What makes him different is that he doesn't use trauma as an excuse. He grows. It's not about what they do, it's about what their actions reveal about how they see love, loyalty, and respect. And knowing that science says that reality can bleed into imagination and vice versa, we should pay more attention to the good characters rather than the morally grey. I don't know, I know which character I would prefer to root for now. Can we romanticize freely? So to me, this depends on what genre and age group you're aiming for your viewers. If you're writing dark romance for adults, the expectation is clear. Usually it comes with trigger warnings, it's darker, twisted, and adult readers can either engage or, like myself, decide it's not for them. But when it comes to young adult, that's different. Marketing to a demographic that is still vulnerable and still becoming who they are as people. And whether we want to admit it or not, the stories we paint can become quite meaningful to people as they grow. Another problem we face is the idea that healthy romance is boring. Take Dracula, a love tale. It's been storming the internet for a reason. Vlad isn't a saint, he's morally grey, haunted, violent, but his love for Elisabetta is what drives him. And here's the difference. When he finds her again, he's willing to leave if that's what she wants. He's honest about her resemblance to his lost wife. He doesn't hide who he is, and in the end, he sacrifices himself so he can live the life that she deserves. To me, that's a way more healthier display of romance than some of the other examples that we have from mainstream media. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you managed to keep reality and fiction separate, or has it bled through? And if you've gone through bad relationships and finally found the right one, did you notice that you couldn't enjoy the same kinds of dynamics in romance that you used to? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them, and I will see you next week. So stay tuned, and I will see you then.